I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, for those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important. We had added nearly 500,000 square miles to the Pacific Ocean. And here is our journey's end. At length we sighted that great natural phenomenon, the ice barrier. As we started alongside the barrier with our ships, suddenly the edge...
That's all. You've got to know your limitations, Truman.
If the Earth were truly a globe, then every line of latitude south of the equator would have to measure a gradually smaller and smaller circumference the farther south traveled. If, however, the Earth is an extended plane, then every line of latitude south of the equator should measure a gradually larger and larger circumference the farther south traveled. The fact that many captains navigating south of the equator, assuming the globular theory, have found themselves drastically out of reckoning, more so the farther south traveled, testifies to the fact that Earth is not a ball. 36. During Captain James Clark Ross's voyages around the Antarctic circumference, he often wrote in his journal, perplexed at how they routinely found themselves out of accordance with their charts, stating that they found themselves an average of 12 to 16 miles outside their reckoning every day, later on further south as much as 29 miles. 37. Lieutenant Charles Wilkes commanded a United States Navy exploration expedition to the Antarctic from 1838 to 1842, and in his journals also mentioned being consistently east of his reckoning, sometimes over 20 miles in less than 18 hours. 38. To quote Reverend Thomas Milner, "In the southern hemisphere, navigators to India have often fancied themselves east of the Cape when still west, and have been driven ashore on the African coast, which, according to their reckoning, lay behind them. This misfortune happened to a fine frigate, the Challenger, in 1845. How came Her Majesty's ship Conqueror to be lost? How have so many other noble vessels, perfectly sound, perfectly manned, perfectly navigated, been wrecked in calm weather, not only in dark night or in a fog, but in broad daylight and sunshine? In the former case, upon the coasts, in the latter upon sunken rocks, from being out of reckoning? The simple answer is that Earth is not a ball." 39. Practical distance measurements taken from the Australian Handbook Almanac, Shippers and Importers Directory, state that the straight-line distance between Sydney and Nelson is 1,550 statute miles. Their given difference in longitude is 22 degrees, 2 minutes, and 14 seconds. Therefore, if 22 degrees, 2 minutes, 14 seconds out of 360 is 1,550 miles, the entirety would measure 25,182 miles. This is not only larger than the ball Earth is said to be at the equator, but a whole 4,262 miles greater than it would be at Sydney's southern latitude on a globe of said proportions. 40. From near Cape Horn, Chile, to Port Phillip in Melbourne, Australia, the distance is 10,500 miles, or 143 degrees of longitude away. Factoring in the remaining degrees to 360 makes for a total distance of 26,430 miles around this particular latitude, which is over 1,500 miles wider than the Earth is supposed to be at the equator, and many more thousands of miles wider than it is supposed to be at such southern latitudes. 41. Similar calculations made from the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa to Melbourne, Australia, at an average latitude of 35.5 degrees south, have given an approximate figure of over 25,000 miles, which is again equal to or greater than the Earth's supposed greatest circumference at the equator. Calculations from Sydney, Australia to Wellington, New Zealand, at an average of 37.5 degrees south, have given an approximate circumference of 25,500 miles, greater still. According to the ball Earth theory, the circumference of the Earth at 37.5 degrees southern latitude should be only 19,757 statute miles, almost 6,000 miles less than such practical measurements. 42. In the ball Earth model, Antarctica is an ice continent which covers the bottom of the ball from 78 degrees south latitude to 90, and is therefore not more than 12,000 miles in circumference. Many early explorers, including Captain Cook and James Clark Ross, however, in attempting Antarctic circumnavigation, took 3 to 4 years and clocked 50 to 60,000 miles around. The British ship Challenger also made an indirect but complete circumnavigation of Antarctica, traversing 69,000 miles. This is entirely inconsistent with the ball model.
Another very intriguing argument for flat earthers is Antarctica, the mysterious massive continent at our southern pole that nobody is allowed to explore. After sailing over 60,000 miles along the Antarctic coastline, Captain Cook was never able to complete the journey around the ice continent, which is supposed to be just under 12,000 miles around. Neither was James Clark Ross or the British ship Challenger. Nobody has ever successfully circumnavigated Antarctica. Many so-called flat earthers claim that these attempts failed because Antarctica is actually a massive ice barrier that surrounds the flat surface of the Earth. The azimuthal equidistant projection map, produced by the U.S. Geological Survey, has been used for centuries for the fact that all directions or azimuths are correct and all distances are at true scale. Studying this map, one can clearly see how man has been able to accurately circumnavigate the Earth on a flat plane model. And if it is in fact accurate, then it explains why after 60,000 miles, nobody has been able to completely circumnavigate Antarctica. Interestingly, this is also the map used by the United Nations.
Now, what you are looking at here are the logos of the 5 government agencies that control our so-called globe, our so-called spinning ball. Now, before we identify the logos, let's have a look at this map that hangs on my living room wall. And this map is the Gleason World Map from 1892, number 6 from the Boston Public Library. Okay, and as you can see here, it was published in the Buffalo Electrotype Engraving Company in New York. All right, and as you can see here, it's scientifically and practically correct as it is. Okay, now back to the logos. Here we have the International Maritime Organization, which basically controls our waterways, all of our waterways, how far out we could go into the ocean, territorial boundaries. Okay, so now let's have a deep look into their logo. Now, isn't it awful funny that the people who control how far we can go out in the water have a flat earth map with an ice wall as their logo? Okay, anyways, here we go. The International Civil Aviation Organization. Now, this is the government agency that controls our airways, how far we can fly and where we can fly. And once you fly out too far south, they're going to turn you around. But anyways, let's check out their logo. Okay, as you can see here, hidden in their logo, the agency that controls our airways has the flat earth map with the ice wall around it, hidden right in it. Okay, now here we have the World Meteorological Organization, which basically they control all the mainstream media information we get about storms, hurricanes, and all that good stuff. So, anyways, let's check out what's hidden in their logo. The flat earth map. Okay, now here we have the World Health Organization. Now this organization controls all the mainstream media news that we hear about, like COVID-19, Ebola, or any other kind of pandemics going on in the world. But let's have a look at what's hidden in their logo. And as you can see here, the flat earth map with the ice wall around it. Okay, now last but not least, we have the United Nations, which basically control everything, control all the militaries in the world, all of the treaties that are signed in the world. These people control this. And I think it's awful funny that if you look in their flag, they have the flat earth map in their flag. Into their General Assembly Hall where they hold all their meetings and sign all their treaties, guess what's on the wall right up above them? The flat earth map. Now this all could be just coincidence, but I don't think so. If you look at any map before 1958, it shows a flat earth with an ice wall around it. And all the government agencies that control our airways and our waterways have the flat earth map with the ice wall in their logo. Okay? Now, if you were to try to get in a private plane or on a private boat and try to get too far south to try to find this ice wall, here's what's going to happen. The Navy's going to show up in a battleship or a jet fighter and turn you around and escort you out of the area. Now, let's watch and see what happens when a private boat or a private jet gets too far south, keeping in mind that that means 80 degrees north of the equator. You go past that, you're in maritime waters, and here's what happens.
Hey, it's a Navy destroyer. He will yield. That cheeky better not cross my bow. Yeah. Stop, Josh. They take it seriously.
What did they say?
You got to yield. You can't just fucking. They think you're going to charge them.
We don't know for sure. They did say something. No, they did. They come back last call. Yeah, fucking talk to them.
Actually going around. He's turning. Stop. He's turning. He is actually turning.
You said about the ship yesterday.
No, he is turning. Fucking hell, what have we done now? It's turning, Josh. Just sit still.
He's slowed down, has he?
Yeah, he's really slowed down. No doubt we were in trouble.
What for?
It's coming to us. He's got the shits because...
This is Warship Hobart, channel 16, over.
16.
Yeah, we got you, mate. It's bad boys. Did he come back? Gonna go channel 16. No.
Hobart, you are in a maritime exclusion area. Please report your intentions.
Who the fuck's that?
We're heading to the shelf to go.
Just say we're heading out fishing. Heading out fishing. No, we're just heading out fishing.
Get the dinghies out, boys. They get
Going that way.
We're just traversing. But they're not. Is there a helicopter coming at us now?
Are we late? I don't know.
Just travel. Just go.
Just go.
Okay.
You sent out the chopper.
That's a drone. Is it?
That's unreal.
I'm set up a demo today with this Cessna and the Air National Guard. I'm going to be inside of this Cessna, and we're going to be going rogue. We're going to fly into that no-fly zone, and we're going to see how the Air National Guard does it. They scramble the fighter jets that come
Take off. We're off.
flying for miles and miles until...
Okay, we've just entered the no-fly zone now.
Our pilots aren't talking to air traffic control, ignoring their calls to reach them. That triggers an alarm at the Air National Guard base. These fighter pilots scrambling to their jets. They're on alert and ready to take action 24 hours a day. Today, racing to their F-16s, suiting up, climbing on board, and rushing to the runway. Taking off to intercept our rogue Cessna. Reaching the target in just minutes. This is the view from the F-16. That's my Cessna right there.
Intimidating as you would think it would be. Look at that fighter jet. He's right off our wing.
Another F-16 swooping in on the right, calling us on aviation frequencies.
You have been intercepted. If you hear this transmission, acknowledge the radio call and rock your wings.
He wants us to identify ourselves. We're a rogue aircraft, remember, for this demonstration, so we're not going to respond at all and see what this fighter jet
You are ordered to turn to the northwest.
The fighter jet giving us one last warning. After all of this, the pilots still won't listen. The plane won't leave the airspace. Will you shoot them down?
If required, we'll execute the rules of engagement per the commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command. And yes, we would do that.
Shoot the plane down.
If it meets the rules of engagement, yes, we would, to defend the airspace.
Entering restricted airspace. You are ordered to turn west immediately. If you do not follow these instructions, you may be fired upon.
Now, just in case you're not awake yet, the reason these government agencies have the flat earth in their logo is because they know where we live. And they get paid to protect that edge if you ever try to go there. Thanks for watching, and God bless.
All 12 countries active in Antarctica signed a United Nations treaty that outlawed all public travel south of the 60th southern parallel. This was the same time that NASA was formed. The world's attention was pulled away from exploring Antarctica and directed firmly on the moon.
When we look at a Gleason's map from 1892 that states at the top, that it's scientifically and practically correct, as is. We see this Antarctic ice rim. The Gleason's map is basically an azimuthal equidistant projection, which can be traced back to the year 1000. The AE map is also an official map of the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, and the official logo for the United Nations. The oldest known globe in the world is from 1492. This is something you need to keep in mind because many people argue that the azimuthal equidistant map is just a flattened out version of the globe, when in fact the globe is just a rounded version of this true world flat map.
In 1962, a series of high-altitude nuclear tests was carried out by the United States. It was called Operation Fishbowl, which has caught the curiosity of many flat Earth researchers because the flat Earth model shared by the ancients was one where we lived within a sphere, upon a flat surface, and surrounded by a massive dome, like a fishbowl, or the Truman Show. To this day, the public is strictly prohibited from traveling below the 60th southern parallel. Nobody has ever completely circumnavigated Antarctica, and airplanes are prohibited from flying over the icy continent. What are they hiding? There is now talk of investing trillions of dollars to explore Mars. Why not Antarctica? If sharing videos about flat Earth is harmful, why not put it all to rest by circumnavigating Antarctica, documenting everything, and prove that the Earth is a spinning globe?